The agriculture sector plays a very important role in the overall economic development, and the sector contributes to about 29% of the gross domestic product in Tanzania, employing almost 65% of the population. In 2018, it accounted for something like 3.2% of the global gross domestic product. Mind you, in some of the developed countries, agriculture is done in a very mechanized form. So a lot of huge areas, expanses of land under cultivation, and a lot of mechanization being used there. So lesser people there give bigger output. And a lot of the people are also employed in the services sector, the tertiary sector, which is not so true about countries like ours. Now, as I mentioned, 80% of the farmers hold land which is less than 3 acres, and the sector faces several risks and uncertainties. There are weather anomalies, there are exotic pests and diseases, and of course, the climate change, which is a big challenge. So we need risk and uncertainty mitigation measures such as crop and livestock insurance, and of course, financial support. So that is exactly what we will be discussing today in our session. Now, just to give you a brief outlook of the agriculture scenario, as you can see, some of the countries listed here, all the African countries, you have the contribution of the agriculture sector. So for Tanzania, we've reported some 31%. 31% is the share of agriculture in the GDP. Then you have South Africa with 2.4%, and you would also have other countries like Mauritius, 3.5%. But as you can see, most of the countries here would be ranging between 20 to 30%. Okay, and then the smallholder farmers. Also, this gives us an idea about the share of the smallholder farmers and insurance coverage in Asia, the Sub-Saharan Africa, and Latin America. It gives you a nice picture. Now, just to give you a broad outline of what exactly we are talking about and what are the basic parameters involved, we are talking about a population of 58 million in the country today, right? Of which dedicated farmers are about 9.36 million, right? And 80% farmers own less than 3 acres of land. So I think you get the picture. 9.36 million total farmers, and of which 80% farmers owning less than 3 acres of land. 65% of the population is dependent on agriculture in some way or the other. And the two of the major crops, if I were to name, maize, of course, is the high point, 5.9 million tons, followed by cassava, 5 million tons. These are two of the major crops. Of course, just to tell you and let you know, Tanzania also has a list of cash crops which it grows. You have coffee, you have tea, you have some of the other crops like tobacco. But then having said that, these two, maize and cassava, I think in number of tonnage is the maximum. So with that background, let's now look into the insurance piece. You know, what is insurance? Insurance is coverage of risk. So if I were to list the risks which are actually at hand in the agriculture sector, what are those risks? There would be production risks, as you can see. There are human resource risks, financial risks, production asset risks, market and price risks, and of course, political risks. Now, please look at it this way, that despite the fact that these risks were there, we were exposed to this risk in agriculture, but actually agriculture insurance started off much later compared to your fire insurance, marine insurance. That's really a little surprising. And let me tell you, if I read Civilization of Mankind, I think human beings turned tillers or cultivating the land much earlier than they started building ships. So that's really a paradox, I think, which the insurance fraternity can answer, why they came in so late into agriculture insurance, whereas so many of the other insurance are already present. Okay, anyway, let's come back to the topic. Now, what are the various risks really? I have actually read out the headings, but then what is production risk? Production risk is the kind of risk. It is based on various factors that affect the yield during production process. The factors include weather and non-weather perils like natural disasters, floods, earthquake, volcanic eruption, hailstorm, accidents, and then diseases, pests, collision, access to inputs, and other agricultural practices. So basically, if you see, it's the major gamut of the risks which are involved in the entire agriculture process. Then we have human risks. What are human risks? Human risks are related factors that affect farm business, so health or personal distress, accident, illness, death, and family disputes and thefts. Okay. Then you have financial risks. Financial risk, majority of the small-scale farmers in developing countries depend on credit facilities to support them in the farming activities. But most of the arrangements are not well organized, hence farmers face financial risks from high interest rates, poor credit terms, such as period of credit, work with unregistered lenders. And you'll be surprised to know that not only in Africa, but even countries in Latin America and Asia face the same problem. And finally, the market risk. Market risk is, of course, price volatility is still a challenge to not only developing countries, but also to the developed countries. Prices of commodity usually depends on various factors, both regional as well as global, and thus include a demand for commodity, prices of substitute commodities, and government interventions. So it is basically what is everything that affects price. And you know, the basic economics rule here is that the price of a commodity, the substitute for the commodity, the complements for that commodity, and the government interventions which are there. So the entire gamut of this constitute your market risks. The risks in agriculture sector, the production risk and the market risk seem to be the most crucial risk in the agriculture sector. And this is what I tried to mention on the earlier slide, trying to give more importance to the production risk and the market risk. Both developed countries and developing countries have put in various arrangements to ensure that these risks are properly mitigated. And one of the solutions to mitigate the market risk is government intervention. Okay. Now coming to production risk, which I mentioned in the last slide, and it did occupy a major, if you see the individual risks which are involved, you will see a huge quantum of risk falls under this pocket of production risk. And this is where your crop insurance and livestock insurance comes in. And this is how we can reduce the production risks, by giving suitable crop insurance and livestock insurance. Okay, now let's look at the evolution of agriculture insurance. So basically what I'm going to discuss in the next couple of minutes is the evolution of agriculture insurance and how agriculture insurance is present in some of the countries. So just to let you know, as I was mentioning earlier, it is only in the 1930s that USA federal crop insurance was established to cover yield losses from major natural causes in the form of multiple peril crop insurance. For short, we'll call it MPCI. Now, this MPCI, if you see, it is actually an insurance policy which covers several of the risks, okay, and several of the perils. So, what are they? They're flood, wildfire, drought, windstorm, lightning, and uncontrollable diseases and pests. So these are the normally what is covered under this insurance policy. And the insurer must conduct physical inspection before the crop is established in the farm and during the pre-harvest season. Now, there are newer covers which have come up since then, and the new ways of managing the farm risk does not require this physical inspection like the traditional crop insurance. And these products use indices to capture weather data from a particular firm through weather stations or satellites. And some of the new agriculture products adopted by different insurance markets are the weather index insurance, area yield index insurance, soil moisture index insurance. So now, if you see, what does the multi-peril crop insurance cover? The multi-peril crop insurance covers drought, uncontrollable pests and diseases, hailstorm damage, flooding of the crop field, fire and lightning, explosion, windstorm. Okay? The index-based weather insurance, which I have talked about, it covers physical loss and damage to growing crops that would arise due to excessive rainfall and drought. It pays out based on an index measured at the local weather station or by satellite, rather than based on consequences such as fire, pest, and diseases. So, unlike the traditional crop insurance, MPCI, the insurance company does not need to visit a farmer's field to determine the premium or assess the damages. If the rainfall amount is below a pre-specified threshold, then the insurance pays out. So it's a newer form of assessment and paying out of the claims, because ultimately we take insurance for settlement of claims. So we have to continuously innovate and find out ways in which things can be done in a much more simpler manner. And that is exactly where this index-based covers are helping out. What are some of the exclusions quickly? All insurance contracts have exclusions, and so it's also these agriculture policies will have. So these are like earth movement, nuclear pollution, war and terrorism, consequential loss of any kind, riots and strikes, willful misconduct, arson of any kind, wild animals. So these are pretty standard. Let's move on to the practices in different countries. So in United States, as you can see, we have the agriculture insurance product, namely the MPCI in USA, and it is administered by the government body called the Federal Crop Insurance Corporation, FCIC. The distribution of MPCI product is done through 18 agricultural insurance providers who compete on service as the prices are set by the FCIC. About 96% of crop insurance in the USA is the multi-peril. What about South Korea? In South Korea, crop insurance program was introduced in 2001 with the enactment of the Crop Disaster Insurance Act. The crop insurance program is handled by a public-private partnership and is heavily supported by the government. The National Agriculture Cooperative Federation is this is actually reinsured with the National Agriculture Cooperative Federation, and the entire thing is done on a quota share basis with 6 local reinsurers. The government steps in if the liability exceeds a particular percentage of the premium, right? So over a particular claim ratio, as you can see, the government will step in. What's happening in China? China, of course, the PICC, very strong insurer, has offered crop insurance in China since 1950s, but it was only in 2007 that the central government started a subsidized crop insurance pilot for both crop and livestock. Today, PICC is responsible for 50% of all crop insurance, with the other 50% offered by 12 local and national insurance companies. In Spain, one of the key characteristics of the Spanish agriculture insurance system was the setting up of a pool in which all the insurance companies offering agriculture protection would operate. The pool is managed by a service company, AgroSeguro. There are now 29 national and foreign private companies in the pool. Thus, the risk is assumed in a co-insurance regime. What's happening in India? In India, basically, there are two programs which are actually run by the government. So it's the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, you call it PMFBY, and the restructured weather-based crop insurance program, RWBCIS. So now, you see, the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, PMFBY, protects farmers from various non-preventable production risks covering entire on-field crop life cycle, planting risks to post-harvest damages. So it's a wide coverage. Farmers pay a maximum of 2% to 1.5% respectively for the Kharif and the Rabi crops and oilseed crop, and a maximum of 5% for the commercial crops. Empaneled insurance companies charge commercial premium rate. The difference between the commercial premium and what the government has mentioned as the statutory premium is subsidized by the center and state governments. The sum insured for a crop per hectare is decided by the district technical committee under the chairmanship of the district magistrate. So, insurance company for a cluster of district is selected based on a tender bidding, and the L1 bidding through the tendering process conducted by the state governments. Premium subsidy constituted something like 83% of the total premium. So you have a price which is say 100, 83% is a subsidy element, and the 17% is what was actually paid by the farmers. Just to tell you how the cycle is working there, if you start from the top, the tender process by state government bidding. So there is a tender which is given, and you have what you call categories which are actually I would say there are pockets. So for each of these pockets, there are separate tenders. So in this tender process, the insurance companies are invited to bid. There's a crop notification and farmer enrollment after this process is completed. The premium payment, there's a premium payment which happens to the insurer. Then a part of it is of course transferred to the reinsurer, so there's a risk transfer risk to the reinsurer. And then there is yield estimation through crop cutting experiments, and then there is claim settlement by the insurer. So this entire process takes place in a very smooth manner and is actually overseen by the government. So these were the experiences that we have in the various countries on agriculture insurance. So now let's move over to another very important topic, and that is what exactly are the challenges which are faced by the various stakeholders. Now the farmers, for instance, I already showed you in the first slide that farmers occupy less than 3 acres of land, most of them. So for them, premium is a major issue. High premium rate. an insurance requirement like use of RFID chip. So, for the livestock insurance, you actually require a RFID chip, which the reinsurers keep on insisting. So that also costs money. I'm told in the market this costs something like $4 to $5. So it's pretty costly. And then, of course, inadequate financial support to the farmers, which makes them unable to fund premium on their own. So these are some of the challenges the farmers are facing. So any agriculture policy agriculture insurance policy that we want to come up with should take into account how to overcome these challenges. Okay. Now, for the insurance companies, if you see, what are the challenges the insurance companies are facing? The use of satellite data still needs to be further explored. Lack of data. So we have lack of data, which is obviously more than us. The reinsurers are worried about this. Low understanding of the coverage and how it works. The financial institutions and the government also face a lot of challenges. Lack of enough collateral to facilitate farmer loans, and need for intensive data collection that can be used to provide subsidies. So, for any system to develop, and as you can see, this is something which is of recent origin, there will be challenges. But the way we can go forward is to highlight those challenges and cover those challenges as we move forward. And this is how any system works. This is how any system refines itself. So it's not a bad thing that we are saying that there are so many challenges. But I think the good thing needs to come out of that is how to overcome these challenges in future. So now, one of the things which we as Jubilee Insurance we did was to see how to overcome some of the challenges which we mentioned, And one of the things which we have actually implemented is to come up with a product in coordination with two very prominent organizations. One is Acre Africa and the other one is Tan Management Insurance Brokers. So the three of us together, Jubilee Insurance, Acre Africa and Tan Management, we came up with a product which is called Bima Pima. But even if you, so what is Bima Pima? Bima Pima is an agriculture insurance policy that offers a weather index based insurance product which protects farmers from losses that would arise in case of excessive rainfall or drought. Right? It provides indemnification to farmers based on cost of inputs. The product goal is to extend the advantage of insurance and risk management to farmers and increase the insurance penetration. With Bima Pima insurance, the cost of insurance may either be embedded with the cost of seed bags, which the farmer buys, or the farmer can be given the option of purchasing seeds with insurance or seed without insurance. The seed with insurance option will comprise of a voucher, flyer, and a clear instruction of coverage on how to activate the insurance cover. So you see where we are going. We are trying to get ahead of the distribution. So distribution is a major issue. So that is where we've gone. So Bima Pima provides coverage for a maximum of 165 days of the 365 days of the year on the following stages of the plant growth: the germination stage, the vegetative stage, the flowering stage, and the pre-harvest stage. This platform will enable farmers to conveniently pay their premiums as well as receive their claim payments through the mobile money. So, it is only the mobile which helps you. And a farmer with the purchase of seeds would simply open the seed bag before planting dial that 100 star 150 star 50 star 77 hash, insert the voucher into his mobile phone, inside the voucher number, that is, into the mobile phone, which would require them to answer a few basic questions, and within 60 seconds receive confirmation of cover on the phone via SMS. We are aware that a lot of people in our country use mobile phones, and I think this is going to help the distribution. This platform is supported by all networks in Tanzania. This is a solution for small-scale farmers, supported by ease of distribution through the mobile network. The premium is affordable with an easy claim solution. So right now the product is in the pilot stage. I'm sure this will develop into a major product as the years go by. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the final slide of the presentation, and just to recapitulate before we go on to this slide, what have we discussed so far? We have discussed what are the risks which are involved in agriculture insurance and why actually we require agriculture insurance in the first place, right? Subsequently, we have discussed how agriculture insurance was practiced in various parts of the world. We've also discussed what are the major parameters concerning agriculture in our country, what are the challenges we were facing with regard to agriculture insurance. And then finally, we have discussed one of the products which have been recently introduced by Jubilee Insurance along with Acre Africa and TAN Management Brokers, which to some extent we feel would enable a better distribution of the small ticket agriculture insurance. And finally, we are discussing what are the challenges ahead for agriculture insurance per se. Okay? And why are we discussing this? Because like I mentioned, once we know the challenges, we would know that these are the challenges we need to overcome. And then, the thinking process is set to bring about the solutions. And once we bring about the solutions, we will probably have a better environment for insurance. So first and foremost is the development of agriculture insurance experts for product and pricing model. There is a shortage of agriculture insurance experts for product and pricing model, and we also need a lot of veterinarians and agronomists. Why do we need them? We need them for the crops, for the livestock. So that is where the job of a specialist comes in. Then apart from that, there is lack of yield data, right? And for example, let's say the average yield per district, we don't have accurate estimates of that data with respect to certain crops. So when you go to the reinsurer, there is an issue, and if we are able to give proper and adequate yield data, we would probably get better reinsurance rates. So once we get better reinsurance rates, these rates gets passed on to the farmers, and we're probably able to even price our products cheaper. Or let me say, we'd be able to price our products better, right? Then risk management and insurance awareness amongst farmers. So, the farmer, like I mentioned, is mostly small farmers. So they have to first think about the basic things. Where to buy the seeds from, where to get the money to buy seeds, where to have their basic sustenance, food, clothing, shelter. And after that comes insurance. So if I was a farmer, I was a small farmer, and I were to put 1 shilling, to buy an insurance policy, I would like to know what that 1 shilling is going to get for me. So if I were to know what that 1 shilling was to get for me, I would expect my insurance company to tell me that this is exactly what you're getting from that 1 shilling. So I think what is required is a little bit of insurance awareness, product awareness, and how it's going to help the farmer to buy that insurance, to do the risk management. Of course, needless to mention, reinsurance support is also required. Without reinsurance support, we cannot have big policies being floated. We need to have a distribution model which is able to collapse this cost, right? So that ultimately the price which we offer to the farmer is a very economic price, you know. So these are some of the challenges which I just mentioned. I'm hoping that now that we've listed some of the challenges, we would be able to overcome these challenges in the coming near future, and I see a great growth for agriculture insurance in Tanzania.